All right. Well, a story just caught our eye. Chelsea Clinton, of course, is been. I believe she has a book coming out, so she's been giving interviews.
She has a kid book out that she's been
traveling
around for.
She's got a kid book coming out. Well, she gave an interview to The Guardian, and a couple, as you can imagine, was asked by a friendly reporter about President Trump. And there's a couple nuggets of the former first daughter talking about the president. First is about when he may go to the UK. President Trump may go to the UK in July to visit that country. This is what Chelsea Clinton said about that visit. She said, quote, "If I lived in Britain, I would show up to protest because I don't agree with what he's doing to denigrate what it means to be an American." Wow. So
that's what you want to hear on Memorial Weekend.
Well, protesting your own country in someone else's country, it's like when they didn't stand for the anthem, remember, in London for those games. It's even worse in that sense. Listen, she's got the right to protest all she wants. I just don't like that optic.
Well, that was just some of it. The interview goes on, and she talks more about hate, Griff.
Yeah, you know, she says in this interview with The Guardian that that this administration has not only mainstreamed hate, but mainlined it, which is really quite strong language. Actually, if we can just put that quote up, I believe we've got it. There you go. "Now I've come to feel differently because I think that the way that our president and many people around him have not only mainstreamed hate, but mainlined it, it is so deeply dangerous." Those are perhaps the harshest words that have come out of Chelsea Clinton's mouth.
She also has
to this administration.
Before we get to the Ivanka thing, because that's there too, it's the impugning of the motives of the other. Like, I'm a conservative. I don't agree with a lot of liberals on a lot of things, but it doesn't mean I think their heart's bad or they're evil people. You know, she's assuming that because President Trump pursues different policies, they're motivated by hate.
Yeah.
They could be motivated by the rule of law, a lot of other things that we've been missing for a while.
Yeah, so you mentioned she talks about Ivanka Trump, who they were friends, by the way, before this election happened in 2016. Here's what she says about Ivanka. She says, "She's an adult. She can make the choices for herself. I mean, she's 36. We are responsible for our choices. In 2008, I was really proud to support my mom, but I disagreed with her fundamentally on a few things, particularly her then opposition to equal marriage rights. For LGBT Americans, I never defended that position because it wasn't what I believed was the right thing to do." Basically saying Ivanka is complicit with whatever her dad does, whatever her dad says. Sort of a hit on Ivanka Trump.
It's interesting, you know, to hear this really for the first time. This is just sort of coming out, this story. For reporters who cover politics like myself, you wonder, is she gearing up for a political run? Because this is really strong rhetoric. I mean, this is not something that is going to be ignored in any corner, whether you're Republican or Democrat. This is a vicious ad hominem attack. And if it's not preceding a run for Congress, it's really quite puzzling as to what was the motivation here.
It is interesting because she does take that moment when she's talking about Ivanka, Pete, to separate herself on issues like gay rights, where she says, you know, I am different than Hillary Clinton, my mom, and former President Barack Obama when they weren't originally supportive of gay marriage and LGBT rights and those sorts of things. She said, I've always been an advocate for that. So it does highlight, if she is going to run for office, she's trying to get her point across. But just, it's frustrating, I think, for a lot of Americans when you have people like that have been in politics go across the pond and say such judgmental things about people who are currently in office.
Well, which means she knows better, right? She knows what she's saying. She's been in a tough spot under public scrutiny her entire life.
She talks about that.
And she talks about that, and that's very real. But, okay, take her mom's position in 2008. Would she have described her mom's position as hateful of lesbians and gays? Or did her mom just take a position she disagreed with? Again, impugning the motives of your opposition. Just because Donald Trump has different views on immigration doesn't make him hateful, but yet they throw that label out there loosely, and it is an unfortunate part of our
racism and all
discourse.
those things. You've got to be so careful.
All of those things.
Yeah. So she also says freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences. To which you could say, well, elections do have consequences, and that's ultimately what happened. People went to the voting booth and said, you know, they support a lot of things that President Trump was campaigning on.
Well, and you have the freedom to let us know what you think about that. Email us at friends@foxnews.com.